The rain against my apartment window sounds like static from a broken radio. And that's fitting because my entire life feels like white noise these days. I'm sitting in this cramped Eastern European flat, 3 floors above a market that never seems to close, eating cold pizza that tastes like cardboard and regret. The cheese has congealed into something that resembles my marriage. Once warm, now a cold, unappetizing mess. My name is Damon Vossel, and 6 months ago I had what most people would call a decent life. I was an IT specialist for a mid-sized tech company in Chicago, married to Vera for 8 years, living in a suburban house with a mortgage that felt manageable and dreams that seemed achievable. Now I'm an expat in Prague, working remote contracts and trying to convince myself that starting over at 35 isn't pathetic. The notification sound from my phone cuts through the market noise below. Another message. I've been getting them all day, each one a fresh reminder of why I'm sitting here instead of back home where I belong. Dude, did you see the wedding photos? This one's from Jake, who used to be my friend before he decided staying neutral meant picking Vera's side. The message comes with a link to some society blog I've never heard of. I click it anyway, because apparently I enjoy torturing myself. There she is, Vera, my ex-wife, looking radiant in a dress that probably cost more than my rent for 3 months. She's standing next to Reed Trenner, the man she left me for, and they're both grinning like they've won the lottery. The headline reads, "Local power couple ties the knot in lavish ceremony." Power couple. That's rich. Reed inherited his father's construction business and promptly ran it into the ground with bad investments and expensive tastes. Vera worked as a marketing coordinator for a nonprofit, spending most of her time planning charity galas where she could network with people she thought were more important than me. I scroll through the photos, my jaw tightening with each image. The venue is some historic mansion I recognize from Vera's Pinterest boards, the same boards where she used to plan our dream wedding renewal that never happened because we were always saving for the right moment. Apparently, the right moment was when she found someone else to pay for it. The guest list reads like a who's who of people I used to consider friends. There's Marcus from my old job, grinning and raising a champagne flute. There's Jennifer, Vera's college roommate, who used to complain to me about Vera's selfishness, but apparently found religion in time for the wedding. Even my cousin Tom made the cut, though he couldn't be bothered to return my calls after the divorce papers were signed. It took 20 years to build a life, I mutter to the empty room. Vera leveled it in 2 months, faster than a casino could take Reed's money. And that's when I noticed something interesting in one of the candid shots. Reed is talking to a man I recognize as his business partner, David Chen, and David doesn't look happy. In fact, he looks like someone just told him his house is on fire. Reed's gesturing wildly, his face flushed, probably from champagne, but maybe from something else. I zoom in on the photo. Reed's smile looks forced, strained around the edges. Vera's standing close to him, but her hand on his arm looks more possessive than affectionate. There's tension there, barely visible beneath the wedding day gloss. My phone buzzes with another message. This one's from my old coworker Lisa. Heard through the grapevine that Reed's business is in trouble. Thought you should know. I stare at the message for a long moment, then at the wedding photos. Something doesn't add up. If Reed's business is struggling, where did the money for this elaborate wedding come from? The venue alone must have cost $50,000, and that's before you factor in Vera's dress, the catering, the flowers that look like they were flown in from somewhere exotic. I close the browser and lean back in my chair, listening to the sounds of the market below. Vendors shouting in Czech, the rumble of delivery trucks, the constant hum of life moving forward while I sit here in limbo. That's when my phone rings. The number isn't saved in my contacts, but I recognize it. It's Vera. For a moment, I just stare at the screen. We haven't spoken since the day she moved out, taking half of everything and most of my dignity with her. The divorce was handled through lawyers, cold and efficient like everything else in her life. I let it go to voicemail. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. 2 minutes later, she calls again. This time, there's something different about the persistence. Vera never called twice for anything. She was too proud, too convinced that the world should revolve around her schedule. Against my better judgment, I answer. What do you want, Vera? Her voice is different than I remember. Smaller somehow. Less certain. Damon, I need to talk to you. We talked. Through lawyers, remember? This is different. It's about... She pauses and I can hear noise in the background. Music, laughter, the sounds of a party winding down. It's about Reed. Something's wrong. I almost laugh. Something's wrong? You mean besides the fact that you married him 6 months after our divorce was finalized? Please, I know you hate me, and you have every right to, but I don't have anyone else to call. That stops me cold. Vera always had someone else to call. She collected people like accessories, keeping them around for when she needed something. The fact that she's calling me, her discarded ex-husband, means she's really desperate. What kind of wrong? I ask, hating myself for being curious. The business. David's been asking questions about the accounts. Reed keeps saying everything's fine, but tonight at the reception, David pulled him aside and they had this argument. Reed looked... She trails off. He looked what? Scared. Reed looked scared, Damon. I've never seen him like that. I close my eyes, processing this information. Part of me wants to hang up, to let Vera deal with whatever mess she's gotten herself into. But there's another part, a darker part, that's interested in watching her perfect new life fall apart. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the smartest person I know when it comes to figuring things out. You always could see through people's lies. Except yours, I think, but don't say. Vera, we're not married anymore. Your problems aren't my problems. I know that, but if Reed's been lying about the money, if the business is really in trouble... Her voice cracks slightly. The prenup. I didn't sign one. If he's broke, if he's been lying about everything, I could lose... Everything? I finish for her. Welcome to the club. There's silence on the other end, broken only by the distant sound of wedding guests saying their goodbyes. I deserved that, she says finally. You deserved a lot more than that. Damon, please. I'm not asking you to help me, I needed to tell someone who would understand what this means. I understand all right. It means that Vera's fairy tale is already showing cracks, and we haven't even gotten to the honeymoon yet. It means that Reed, the man she chose over me because he could give her the lifestyle she wanted, might be as much of a fraud as their relationship. I have to go, she says. Reed's coming back. The line goes quiet, and I'm left staring at my phone, my mind racing. Vera sounded genuinely frightened, more vulnerable than I'd heard her in years. The woman who left me because I wasn't ambitious enough, who criticized my job and my friends and my dreams, had just called me for help. I look back at the wedding photos on my laptop screen. Reed's forced smile, David's worried expression, Vera's possessive grip on her new husband's arm. An idea begins to form in my mind. It's not a nice idea, and it's probably not a healthy one, but it's the first thing that's made me feel alive since I moved to this cramped apartment above a noisy market. I open a new browser window and start researching Reed's construction company. If there are problems, there will be public records, permits, complaints, financial filings. I've always been good at finding information that people prefer to keep hidden. It's part of what made me valuable in IT. 20 minutes later, I've found what I'm looking for. 3 building projects halted due to cost overruns, 2 lawsuits from subcontractors claiming unpaid bills, a pattern of financial stress that Reed has been working very hard to hide. I lean back in my chair and smile for the first time in months. Vera wanted someone who could give her everything she thought she deserved. Instead, she got someone who's been living on borrowed time and other people's money. I pick up my phone and compose a text message to David Chen. I'd met him a few times at company parties back when Vera and I were still pretending to be happy. He seemed like a decent guy, the kind who probably doesn't know his business partner has been cooking the books. David, this is Damon Vossel, Vera's ex-husband. I think there are some things about Reed's finances you should know. Might want to check your accounts first thing Monday morning. I stare at the message for a long moment, my finger hovering over the send button. This is the point of no return. Once I send this, I'm not just the bitter ex-husband anymore. I'm something else entirely. I hit send. The message delivers with a soft chime, and I set the phone aside. Outside my window, the market is finally starting to quiet down as vendors close their stalls for the night. The rain has stopped, leaving the cobblestones gleaming under the streetlights. For the first time since I arrived in Prague, I don't feel like a refugee from my own life. I feel like someone with a purpose, even if that purpose isn't particularly noble. Vera wanted a villain in our divorce story, someone to blame for her unhappiness, someone whose failures justified her choices. I played the part she wrote for me, the boring husband who wasn't good enough, who didn't understand her needs, who held her back from the life she deserved. But that script is finished now. It's time to write a new one. I close the laptop and head to the kitchen to make coffee. It's going to be a long night, and I have plans to make. Vera and Reed think their story is just beginning, but they're wrong. This is where it starts to end. Monday morning comes with the sound of my phone buzzing like an angry wasp. I've been awake for 2 hours already, sitting at my laptop with a cup of coffee that's gone cold, watching the sunrise paint the Prague skyline in shades of gold and amber. I've always been an early riser, but today feels different. Today feels like the beginning of something. The text is from a number I don't recognize, but the message makes me smile. We need to talk. David. Reed's business partner got my message. More importantly, he took it seriously enough to check those accounts I suggested. I can only imagine what he found. I'm about to respond when another notification pops up, this time from social media. Someone's tagged me in a post. Against my better judgment, I click through to see what fresh torment awaits. It's a video from the wedding reception, posted by Jennifer, Vera's college roommate. The caption reads, "When the party gets real, wedding drama jur OMG." I hit play and watch as the camera shakes slightly, focused on Reed near the bar. He's on his phone, his face flushed red, gesturing wildly with his free hand. Even without audio, I can tell he's arguing with someone. In the background, I can see Vera approaching, her wedding dress rustling as she moves quickly across the dance floor. The video cuts off just as she reaches him, but not before capturing the moment when Reed's face goes completely pale. Whatever he heard on that phone call, it wasn't good news. I checked the timestamp. The video was posted at 11:47 p.m. on Saturday, about 3 hours after Vera called me. Which means Reed found out about his financial problems right in the middle of his own wedding reception. My coffee might be cold, but the satisfaction warming my chest is better than any caffeine. I respond to David's text. Coffee? I know a place downtown. Café Louvre, Narodny Street, 1 hour. His reply comes immediately. I'll be there. I shower and dress carefully, choosing clothes that make me look professional, but not threatening. Today isn't about intimidation. It's about information. David Chen seems like a decent guy who got caught up in Reed's schemes, and decent guys respond better to honesty than aggression. The cafe is busy with the morning crowd, tourists mixing with locals over pastries and espresso. I spot David immediately. He's sitting in a corner booth, looking like he hasn't slept in days. His usually neat appearance is disheveled, his tie crooked, his hair uncombed. David, I say, sliding into the seat across from him. You look terrible. He lets out a bitter laugh. Feel worse. Thanks for the warning, by the way. Though I'm not sure if I should thank you or punch you. Depends on what you found, I guess. David stares into his coffee cup like it might contain answers to all his problems. 300,000. That's what's missing from our operating account. $300,000 that Reed moved to his personal account over the past 6 months. I whistle low. That's a lot of wedding money. It's a lot more than wedding money. It was supposed to cover payroll for our crews, materials for the Morrison project, insurance payments. David's hands are shaking slightly as he reaches for his cup. I trusted him. His father and I started this business together 20 years ago. When Reed took over after his father passed, I thought he'd learned from the old man's mistakes. What mistakes? Gambling. Reed's father had a problem with the track, but he kept it small, manageable. David shakes his head. Reed thinks bigger. The pieces start falling into place. Reed didn't just steal money for the wedding, he's been feeding a gambling addiction, using the business as his personal piggy bank. Vera married a man who's not just broke, but actively stealing from his own company. What are you going to do? I ask. I don't know. If I report this, the business goes under. 20 employees lose their jobs. But if I don't... He trails off, staring out the window at the morning traffic. He'll keep stealing until there's nothing left. Exactly. David looks at me with tired eyes. Why did you warn me? I mean, I appreciate it, but what's in it for you? I consider lying, giving him some noble reason about protecting innocent employees or upholding justice. But David deserves honesty, especially since I'm about to ask him for a favor. Revenge, I say simply. Reed stole my wife. Now I find out he's a thief in other ways too. I want him to face consequences for once in his privileged life. David nods slowly. At least you're honest about it. I try to be. Here's what I'm thinking. You don't have to report this to the police right away, but you could freeze the accounts, prevent any more transfers, make some calls to your clients, let them know there might be delays with their projects due to cash flow issues. Word gets around fast in the construction business, right? Faster than gossip at a church social. David's mouth quirks up in what might be the beginning of a smile. Reed's reputation would be finished in this city within a week. And Vera's social climbing would hit a brick wall. She married him for his money and status. Take those away, and she's stuck with a gambling addict who stole from his own business. David finishes the thought, and now he's definitely smiling. You know what? I like you better than I liked your ex-wife. Most people do once they get to know her. We shake hands across the table, and I feel like I've just recruited my first ally in what's shaping up to be a very interesting campaign. David's not doing this for me. He's doing it to protect his business and his employees. But our goals align perfectly, and sometimes that's all the partnership you need. I'm walking back to my apartment when my phone rings. Vera again. This time, I answer on the first ring. Let me guess, I say without preamble. Reed's having a bad morning. How did you... She stops herself. Never mind. I don't want to know. Smart choice. How's married life treating you? There's a long pause. When she speaks again, her voice is small and tight. He lied to me, Damon, about everything. The money, the business, all of it. Welcome to the club. Population. Everyone Reed has ever met. This isn't funny. David froze all the business accounts this morning. Reed can't make payroll, can't pay suppliers. He's been pacing around the apartment all morning, making phone calls and getting more desperate with each one. I can picture it perfectly. Reed in his expensive suit, probably the one Vera bought him for the wedding, frantically trying to hold together a house of cards that's already collapsing. The image fills me with a warm satisfaction that's probably unhealthy but feels absolutely wonderful. What do you want me to say, Vera? That I'm sorry? That I feel bad for you? I want you to say that you didn't have anything to do with this. I consider my options. I could lie, maintain plausible deniability, keep my hands clean. But where's the satisfaction in that? Vera needs to know that her choices have consequences, that the man she discarded isn't just going to disappear quietly into the night. I had everything to do with it, I say. David Chen is a good man who deserved to know his business partner was stealing from him. I just helped him figure it out a little sooner. You... She's speechless, which is a rare and beautiful thing. I what? Helped expose the truth? Protected innocent employees from further theft? Prevented your new husband from digging himself deeper into whatever hole he's already in? You destroyed my marriage. No, Vera. Reed destroyed your marriage. I just turned on the light so everyone could see what he'd done. She's crying now. I can hear it in her voice, the way it gets thick and nasal when she's really upset. Once upon a time, that sound would have broken my heart. Now it just sounds like justice. We're broke, Damon. Completely broke. The apartment, the car, everything, it's all leveraged against the business. If the company goes under, you'll have to get a job, maybe move somewhere cheaper, learn to live within your means. I pause for effect. You know, like normal people do. I never meant for this to happen. You meant for it to happen to me. You just didn't think it would happen to you. The line goes quiet, except for her crying. Part of me feels bad for her. The part that loved her for 8 years, that planned a future with her, that believed we were partners in building a life together. But that part is getting smaller every day, crowded out by anger and satisfaction and something that might be called justice, if you squint at it right. Goodbye, Vera, I say, and hang up before she can respond. I'm almost back to my apartment when I notice them. 2 men in dark suits walking about 20 feet behind me, matching my pace exactly. They're trying to be subtle about it, stopping to look in shop windows when I stop, speeding up when I speed up. But subtle isn't their strong suit. These guys look like they learned surveillance from watching bad movies. I duck into a small cafe and order another coffee I don't need, watching through the window as the 2 men take positions across the street. One of them is talking on his phone, gesturing in my direction. Reed's making his move faster than I expected. Hiring muscle to intimidate me shows he's more desperate than I thought, but it also shows he's stupider than I gave him credit for. Threatening someone in a foreign country, especially someone with nothing left to lose, is the kind of mistake that can escalate situations very quickly. I finish my coffee slowly, letting them wait. Then I pay my bill and walk outside, heading not toward my apartment, but toward the maze of narrow streets that make up Prague's old market district. If these amateurs want to follow me, I'm going to give them a geography lesson they won't forget. The market is busy with the lunch crowd, vendors hawking everything from fresh bread to handmade jewelry. I know these streets now, after 6 months of wandering them when I couldn't sleep, learning every shortcut and every road that leads nowhere. My followers don't have that advantage. I lead them through a series of increasingly narrow alleys, each turn taking us deeper into the labyrinth. Behind me, I can hear them struggling to keep up, their dress shoes slipping on the wet cobblestones, their voices getting more frustrated as they try to coordinate over their phones. Finally, I duck into a passage so narrow I have to turn sideways to fit through it. It connects 2 parallel streets, but unless you know it's there, it just looks like a gap between buildings. I emerge on the other side and quickly blend into a crowd of tourists examining a street musician. 5 minutes later, my followers appear at the mouth of the alley, looking around frantically. They've lost me, and they know it. One of them is already on his phone, probably reporting failure to whoever sent them. I watch them for a few more minutes, memorizing their faces, then head home through a completely different route. By the time I reach my apartment, I'm smiling again. Reed just made his first real mistake. Sending amateurs to intimidate me doesn't just show desperation, it gives me ammunition. I pull out my phone and start recording a video message. Reed, I say to the camera, if you're going to send people to follow me, you might want to invest in professionals next time. These guys couldn't track a parade float through Times Square. I send the video to the number Vera called from earlier, probably Reed's phone. Then I sit back and wait for his response. It comes faster than expected. Not a phone call or text, but a knock at my door. I look through the peephole and see a woman I don't recognize. Mid-30s, dark hair, wearing jeans and a leather jacket that's seen better days. "Damon Vossel?" she says when I open the door. "My name is Jade Marin. I think we need to talk." The name sounds familiar, but I can't place it immediately. "About what?" She holds up an envelope. "About Reed Trenner, about what he did to me, and about how we can make him pay for it." I step aside to let her in, my mind racing. The day started with David Chen and a frozen bank account. Now it's ending with a mysterious woman who apparently has her own score to settle with my ex-wife's new husband. Vera wanted excitement in her life. She wanted drama and passion and someone who could give her everything she thought she deserved. She's about to get more than she bargained for. Jade Marin has the kind of presence that fills a room even when she's sitting quietly. She's perched on the edge of my couch, declining the coffee I offered, studying my apartment with eyes that seem to catalog every detail. There's something predatory about her stillness, like a cat watching a mouse hole. "Nice place," she says, though we both know it's not. "Cozy." It serves its purpose. "You said you know Reed?" She laughs, but there's no humor in it. "I know Reed very well. We were engaged 2 years ago." That stops me cold. Engaged? For 6 months, right up until he decided that Vera was a better investment. Jade reaches into her jacket and pulls out a photograph, Reed and her at some upscale restaurant, his arm around her shoulders, both of them smiling at the camera. This was taken 3 weeks before he broke up with me. Via text message, if you can believe that. I study the photo. Jade looks different here, softer, happier, her guard down in a way that makes the woman sitting across from me seem like a completely different person. Reed looks the same, though. That practiced smile, the expensive clothes, the air of someone who's never had to face real consequences for anything. "He told me he needed to focus on the business," she continues. "Said he couldn't handle a serious relationship while dealing with all the stress of taking over from his father." 2 months later, I see pictures of him and Vera at some charity gala. That must have been rough. Rough doesn't begin to cover it. Jade's voice is steady, but I can see the anger simmering beneath the surface. "I gave up a job in Denver to move here for him. Burned bridges with my family because they didn't like him. Spent my savings on a wedding dress I never got to wear." She reaches into the envelope and pulls out a stack of papers. But here's the thing about Reed. He's sloppy when he thinks he's safe. He never changed the passwords on his accounts after we broke up. Never updated his contact information with his lawyer, his accountant, his bookie. His bookie? Jade's smile is sharp as a blade. "Oh yes, Reed has quite the gambling problem. Poker games, sports betting, online casinos. He owes money to some very unpleasant people in 3 different states." She spreads the papers across my coffee table, bank statements, betting slips, loan documents with interest rates that would make a loan shark blush. The numbers are staggering. Reed doesn't just owe $300,000 to his business. He owes nearly $500,000 to various creditors, most of whom aren't the patient type. "How did you get all this?" "I told you. He never changed his passwords. Amazing what people will share with their cloud storage when they think they're in love." Jade gathers the papers back into a neat stack. "I've been watching him dig himself deeper for 2 years, waiting for the right moment to use this information." "And that moment is now?" "That moment was when I saw the wedding photos and realized he'd found another woman to con. I was going to send this to Vera anonymously, let her figure out what she'd gotten herself into." Jade leans forward, her eyes intense. "But then I heard about what you did to David Chen, and I realized we could do so much more together." I'm impressed despite myself. Jade has been playing a long game, gathering ammunition while Reed thought he was safe. She's patient, methodical, and clearly motivated by the same desire for justice that's been driving me since I moved to Prague. What did you have in mind? Reed's creditors don't know about each other. He's been juggling payments, moving money around, keeping everyone just happy enough to avoid immediate consequences. But if they all found out at the same time, a feeding frenzy. Exactly. And with David freezing the business accounts, Reed can't access the money he's been using to keep them at bay. I can see where this is going, and I like it. Reed has been living on borrowed time and other people's money, but that house of cards is already starting to collapse. All we need to do is give it the right push at the right moment. There's something else, Jade says. Reed's been telling people that the business troubles are temporary, that he's got a big investor lined up to bail him out. He's been name-dropping some venture capital firm from Chicago, claiming they're about to inject $2 million into the company. Let me guess, it's complete fiction. Completely. But he's using that story to buy time with his creditors, convince Vera that everything's going to be fine, maybe even get David to unfreeze the accounts. My phone buzzes with a text message. It's from David. Reed called an emergency meeting for this afternoon. Says he has big news about new investors. Thought you should know. I show the message to Jade, who grins like she just won the lottery. Perfect timing, she says. How do you feel about making a few phone calls? An hour later, we've contacted every creditor on Jade's list. The conversations follow the same basic script. Concerned parties sharing information about Reed's financial situation, suggesting they might want to accelerate their collection efforts before other creditors get there first. The response is immediate and brutal. Reed's phone starts ringing before we've finished the last call, and according to Jade's monitoring of his email account, the messages are piling up fast. Demands for immediate payment, threats of legal action, notices that grace periods are being revoked. He's going to panic, Jade says, watching the emails flood in. Reed doesn't handle pressure well, never did. What about Vera? What about her? I realize I haven't told Jade about my phone conversation with Vera this morning, about her tears and her desperation. For some reason, I feel protective of that information, like sharing it would be a betrayal of something. She called me this morning. She's scared. Jade's expression doesn't change. Good. She should be scared. She knew what she was doing when she went after an engaged man. You think she knew about Reed's problems? I think Vera is the kind of woman who sees what she wants to see and ignores everything else. Reed was charming and seemed successful, so she convinced herself he was the answer to all her problems. Jade stands up, gathering her papers. But ignorance isn't innocence, Damon. She made choices, and choices have consequences. After Jade leaves, I sit in my apartment thinking about consequences. She's right, of course. Vera made her choices with full knowledge that she was destroying our marriage and breaking up Reed's engagement. She chose excitement over stability, status over substance, and now she's learning that those choices come with a price. But there's something about Jade that bothers me, something I can't quite put my finger on. She's too prepared, too organized, too ready with exactly the information we need to destroy Reed completely. It's like she's been planning this for months, waiting for the right partner to help her execute it. Not that I'm complaining. Jade's resources and planning are exactly what I need to make Reed face real consequences for his actions. But I make a mental note to be careful around her, to remember that someone who can plan revenge this thoroughly against one ex-fiancé might be capable of doing the same to a new ally. My phone rings, interrupting my thoughts. It's a number I don't recognize, but when I answer, the voice is familiar. You son of a... Reed's voice is tight, with rage and panic. What did you do? I'm sorry, who is this? Don't play games with me, Damon. I know you're behind this. David, the creditors, all of it. Behind what? I'm just sitting in my apartment in Prague, minding my own business. My business is falling apart. My creditors are demanding immediate payment. My wife is... He stops himself before finishing that sentence. Your wife is what, Reed? Having second thoughts about marrying a gambling addict who steals from his own company? I never stole anything. That money was a loan. A loan you gave yourself without telling your business partner. Most people call that theft. There's silence on the other end, broken only by the sound of Reed's heavy breathing. When he speaks again, his voice is different, lower, more dangerous. You need to back off, Damon. I'm not someone you want as an enemy. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Stay out of my business or you'll regret it. The line goes quiet, and I'm left staring at my phone, my heart racing. Reed just made his second major mistake of the day. The first was sending those amateur surveillance guys after me. The second was threatening me directly on a recorded phone line that I can use as evidence if things escalate further. I immediately call Jade and tell her about the conversation. He's getting desperate, she says. Desperate people make stupid choices. Like threatening someone in a foreign country? Like threatening someone who has nothing left to lose and allies he doesn't know about. That evening, I'm walking back from dinner when I notice them again. The same two men from this morning, but this time they're not trying to be subtle. They're following me openly, staying about 10 feet behind, making sure I know they're there. I lead them on another tour of the market district, but this time I'm not trying to lose them. I'm trying to get them somewhere private, somewhere I can have a conversation without witnesses. The abandoned warehouse district is perfect. Empty buildings, no foot traffic, plenty of places to have a quiet chat. I duck into an alley between two crumbling brick buildings and wait. They follow me in, as I knew they would. The bigger one is already reaching into his jacket when I step out of the shadows. Gentlemen, I say calmly, I think we need to talk. They stop, surprised by my directness. The smaller one recovers first. Mr. Trenner wants you to stop interfering in his business. And what happens if I don't? Bad things, the big one says, finally producing what looks like a blackjack from his jacket. Very bad things. I pull out my phone and show them the screen. I've been recording since they started following me. Interesting. So Reed Trenner hired you to threaten me with violence, and you're willing to do that on camera? Their confidence evaporates instantly. These are small-time muscle, probably hired through some local criminal contact, not professional intimidators. They're in over their heads, and they know it. Look, the smaller one says, we don't want any trouble. We're just delivering a message. Message delivered. Here's mine for Reed. If I see either of you again, this recording goes to the police, along with evidence of Reed's gambling debts and theft from his business. I'm sure the authorities would be very interested in a man who hires criminals to threaten people. They leave quickly, probably already planning how to explain their failure to Reed. I watch them go, then head home through the main streets, making sure to stay visible and well lit. When I get back to my apartment, there's an envelope waiting under my door. No return address, just my name written in block letters. Inside is a single photograph. Reed and Vera at what looks like a restaurant, but they're not alone. There's a third person at the table, a woman I don't recognize, and all three of them look serious, intense, like they're planning something. On the back of the photo, someone has written, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Jade." She's been watching Reed and Vera, documenting their activities, building a case against them that goes far beyond what we discussed this afternoon. I study the photograph more carefully. The unknown woman is older than Vera, well-dressed, with the kind of sharp features that suggest she's used to getting her way. There's something familiar about her, but I can't place where I might have seen her before. My phone buzzes with a text from Jade. Check your email. The message contains a single link to a local news website. The headline reads, "Local construction company under investigation for financial irregularities." The article is brief, but devastating. An anonymous tip led city financial authorities to examine Reed's company, revealing a pattern of questionable transactions and missing funds. David Chen is quoted as saying he's cooperating fully with the investigation and has taken steps to protect his employees and clients. Reed's name isn't mentioned directly, but anyone in the construction industry will know exactly who the article is talking about. His reputation in the city is finished, and with it, any chance of finding legitimate investors or clients willing to work with him. I'm still reading when my phone rings. Vera again. "Did you see the news?" she asks without preamble. "I saw it. This is your fault, all of it." "No, Vera, this is Reed's fault. I just helped people find out about it. He's talking about leaving town, starting over somewhere else. And you're going with him?" There's a long pause. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. For the first time since this all started, I hear genuine despair in her voice. Not anger, not manipulation, just pure despair. The woman who left me because I couldn't give her the life she wanted is now facing the possibility of losing everything she thought she'd gained. "Vera," I say gently, "you need to think about what's best for you. Not for Reed, not for your image, but for you." What's that supposed to mean? It means Reed is going down, and you don't have to go down with him. You still have options. Like what? Like leaving him before his problems become your problems. Like protecting yourself instead of protecting someone who's been lying to you from the beginning. She's quiet for a long moment. I can't just abandon him. Why not? He abandoned his business partner. He abandoned his previous fiancée. He abandoned his responsibilities to his employees. Why do you owe him loyalty he's never shown anyone else? Because I love him. No, you don't. You love the idea of him, the lifestyle you thought he could give you. But that was never real, Vera. It was all built on lies and stolen money. The line goes quiet, and I think she might have hung up. But then I hear her crying again, soft and broken. "I don't know how to start over," she whispers. "Yes, you do. You did it when you left me, remember? You figured out how to build a new life then. You can do it again. That was different. I had Reed. And before Reed, you had me. And before me, you had yourself. That's still there, Vera. Under all the mistakes and bad choices, you're still the person who can figure this out." I don't know why I'm trying to help her. Maybe it's because hearing her this broken reminds me of why I loved her in the first place, before the ambition and dissatisfaction consumed everything good between us. Maybe it's because destroying Reed doesn't require destroying her too. Or maybe it's because I want her to make the choice to leave him on her own, to realize that the life she thought she wanted isn't worth the price she's paying for it. "I have to go," she says. "Reed's coming back." After she hangs up, I sit in my apartment thinking about choices and consequences, about the difference between justice and revenge, about whether what I'm doing is right or just satisfying. The photograph Jade left is still on my coffee table, Reed and Vera and the unknown woman planning something over dinner. Whatever they're plotting, it's probably their last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. But Jade and I are already 2 steps ahead, and we're just getting started. Reed wanted to play games with people's lives, to take what he wanted without considering the consequences. Now he's about to learn that some games have rules he doesn't understand, and some opponents don't play fair. The underdog is done being underestimated. The morning brings news that Reed's emergency investor meeting was a disaster. David texts me the details while I'm having coffee. Reed showed up with no actual investors, just promises and projections that fooled no one. 2 clients canceled their contracts on the spot, and the rest are demanding escrow accounts to protect their deposits. He looked like a cornered animal, David's message reads. Sweating through his suit, hands shaking, making promises he can't keep. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I'm forwarding the message to Jade when my phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize, but the voice is familiar. Marcus, my former co-worker who attended Reed's wedding. "Damon, hey, it's Marcus. I hope you don't mind me calling." "Depends on why you're calling." "Look, I know things ended badly between us after your divorce, and I'm sorry about that. I should have stayed neutral, should have been a better friend." I wait for him to get to the point. Marcus never calls just to apologize. The thing is, there are rumors going around about Reed. Bad rumors. And Vera. She's been calling people, trying to get character references, asking if anyone knows investors who might be interested in the construction business. And nobody wants to get involved. Reed's reputation is toxic right now, and people are starting to wonder about Vera too. Whether she knew about the financial problems, whether she's complicit in whatever he's been doing. This is interesting. Vera's trying to save Reed's business by leveraging their social connections, but instead she's just spreading the contamination to herself. Guilt by association is a powerful force in social circles, and once people start questioning your judgment, it's hard to recover. Why are you telling me this, Marcus? Because I think you deserve to know, and because... He pauses, choosing his words carefully. Because some of us are starting to realize that maybe you weren't the problem in your marriage after all. After Marcus hangs up, I call Jade and fill her in on the latest developments. Perfect, she says. Reed's social isolation is accelerating faster than we hoped, but we need to be careful not to let Vera escape the consequences of her choices. What do you mean? I mean, she's positioning herself as another victim of Reed's deception. The poor innocent wife who was fooled by her charming husband. If she plays that role well enough, she might actually come out of this with sympathy instead of blame. I think about my conversation with Vera last night, her tears and desperation. Part of me wants her to find a way out of the mess she's created, but Jade has a point. Vera wasn't an innocent victim. She was an active participant in destroying my marriage and Reed's previous engagement. What do you suggest? There's a gallery opening tonight, modern art, very trendy, exactly the kind of event Vera would normally attend to network and be seen. Word is, she and Reed are planning to make an appearance, try to show a united front and convince people that the rumors about their finances are exaggerated. And I think it's time for a more public demonstration of the truth. Jade's plan is elegant in its simplicity. She's managed to get herself hired as the AV technician for the gallery opening. Apparently, she has experience with sound and lighting systems from her previous job in Denver. During Reed's inevitable attempt to address the rumors publicly, she'll have access to the projection system used to display information about the artwork. What kind of information are we talking about? I ask. Bank statements, loan documents, screenshots of Reed's online gambling accounts. Maybe some of those text messages he sent when he was breaking up with me. That's a lot of personal information to display in public. Are you sure you want to go that far? Jade's smile is cold. Reed destroyed my life in public. He flaunted his relationship with Vera at events where he knew I'd see the photos on social media. He made sure everyone knew he'd upgraded to a better model. Turnabout is fair play. I spend the afternoon researching the gallery and the event. It's a high-end affair, the kind of place where Prague's social elite go to see and be seen. The artist being featured is some minimalist sculptor whose work looks like expensive furniture to my untrained eye, but the guest list reads like a who's who of the city's business and social scene. If Reed and Vera are trying to rehabilitate their image, this is exactly the kind of event they'd choose. Sophisticated, well-attended, full of potential investors and social connections. It's also the perfect place for a very public humiliation. I arrive at the gallery early, dressed in my best suit and carrying a small gift bag that contains a bottle of wine and a congratulations card for the artist. Just another cultured expat supporting the local arts scene. The space is modern and minimalist, all white walls and polished concrete floors. The sculptures are positioned throughout the main room, each one lit dramatically and accompanied by a small placard explaining the artist's vision. At the far end of the room, a large projection screen displays rotating images of the artwork, along with information about the pieces and their prices. Jade is easy to spot. She's dressed in black, moving efficiently between the lighting rigs and sound equipment, testing connections and adjusting settings. She catches my eye and nods slightly, confirming that everything is ready. The guests start arriving around 7, and I position myself near the bar where I can observe the entrance. The crowd is exactly what I expected. Well-dressed professionals, art collectors, and social climbers, all holding wine glasses and speaking in the hushed tones that galleries seem to inspire. Reed and Vera arrive fashionably late, making an entrance that's clearly calculated for maximum impact. Reed is wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and Vera is stunning in a black cocktail dress that shows off the figure I once knew intimately. They move through the crowd like celebrities, shaking hands and exchanging air kisses with people who, based on the body language I'm observing, are being polite, but not particularly warm. I watch as Reed works the room, his charm turned up to maximum intensity. He's telling the same story to everyone: temporary cash flow issues, big investors coming on board, rumors blown out of proportion by competitors. Some people seem to buy it, or at least pretend to. Others are clearly skeptical, their smiles not reaching their eyes. Vera is playing her part perfectly, the supportive wife standing by her husband during difficult times. But I can see the strain around her eyes, the way her smile falters when she thinks no one is looking. This performance is costing her, and she's not sure how much longer she can maintain it. The formal presentation begins around 8:30. The gallery owner introduces the artist, who gives a brief speech about his work and his inspiration. Then, as I expected, Reed steps forward to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he begins, his voice carrying easily through the space, "I want to take a moment to address some rumors that have been circulating about my company." This is it. I can see Jade at her control station, her hand hovering over the laptop that controls the projection system. On the screen behind Reed, images of abstract sculptures continue to rotate peacefully. "As many of you know, the construction industry is cyclical," Reed continues. "There are always challenges, always competitors who try to spread false information to gain advantage. But I want to assure you that Trenner Construction is stronger than ever, with major new investments coming online in the next quarter." The first image appears on the screen behind him, a bank statement showing Reed's personal account with a balance of negative $12,000. The crowd doesn't notice immediately, their attention focused on Reed's speech. "We've weathered storms before," Reed says, warming to his theme. "My father built this company on a foundation of integrity and hard work, values that I've carried forward into the modern era." The second image is a loan document from a payday lending company, showing Reed borrowed $15,000 at an annual interest rate of 400%. A few people in the crowd are starting to glance at the screen, confusion replacing polite attention. Reed notices the shift in the room's energy and turns to see what's captured their attention. His face goes white when he sees the bank statement displayed in high definition behind him. "What the—" He spins around, looking for the source of the projection. "Turn that off! Turn it off now!" But Jade is just getting started. The next image is a screenshot from an online poker site showing Reed's account summary. Total losses over the past year, $347,000. The crowd is fully focused on the screen now, murmuring among themselves as they process what they're seeing. "This is sabotage!" Reed shouts, his composure completely shattered. "Someone is trying to destroy my reputation with fake documents." The final image is the most damaging, a text message thread between Reed and Jade from 2 years ago. His messages are cold and calculating, breaking up with her via text, and then immediately asking her to return the engagement ring because he needed the money for other things. The crowd is buzzing now, no longer pretending to be polite. These are business people and socialites who understand financial documents, who can recognize authentic bank statements and loan agreements. They're also people who value loyalty and integrity, and Reed's text messages paint him as someone who possesses neither. Vera is standing frozen beside her husband, her face a mask of horror and humiliation. She's realizing that everyone in the room now knows exactly what kind of man she married, and by extension, what kind of judgment she exercised in choosing him. "Ladies and gentlemen," the gallery owner says, trying to regain control of the situation, "I apologize for this technical malfunction. Perhaps we should—" "It's not a malfunction," Reed screams, his voice cracking with desperation. "Someone is doing this deliberately. It's that psychopath ex-husband of hers." He points at Vera, who shrinks back as if he'd struck her. The crowd turns to look at Vera, and I can see the exact moment when her social standing crumbles. These people aren't just witnessing Reed's financial ruin. They're seeing him publicly blame his wife for his problems, throwing her under the bus to save his own reputation. Security guards are moving toward Reed now, responding to his increasingly erratic behavior. He's still shouting, demanding that someone find and stop the person responsible for the projection, but his words are becoming incoherent, desperate. Vera looks around the room, seeing the mixture of pity and disgust in the faces of people she once considered friends. Then she does something that surprises me. She walks away. Not toward the exit, but toward Reed, and when she reaches him, she slaps him across the face hard enough to be heard throughout the gallery. "Don't you dare blame me for this," she says, her voice carrying clearly in the sudden silence. "Don't you dare make me the villain in your pathetic story." Then she turns and walks toward the exit, her head held high despite the ruins of her social life scattered around her feet. The crowd parts to let her pass, and for a moment, I feel something like respect for the woman I used to be married to. Reed is still ranting when the security guards reach him, still demanding justice and threatening lawsuits, and generally making the kind of scene that will be talked about in Prague's social circles for months. They escort him out while he's still protesting his innocence, leaving behind a room full of people who now know exactly what kind of man he really is. I finish my wine and slip out during the chaos, walking home through the quiet streets of the old city. My phone is buzzing with messages. David wanting to know if I saw the news, Marcus asking if I had anything to do with what happened at the gallery, even a few former friends who are apparently reconsidering their opinion of my divorce. But the message that matters most comes from Jade. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2? I look up at my apartment window, 3 floors above the market that never sleeps, and realize that I'm not the same person who moved to Prague 6 months ago. That man was broken, defeated, convinced that he deserved the humiliation Vera had inflicted on him. This man is something different, something harder, more focused, more willing to fight for what he believes is right. Reed wanted to play games with people's lives. Vera wanted to trade up to a better model without considering the consequences. They're both about to learn that some games have rules they don't understand, and some opponents fight back harder than expected. The underdog's reckoning is just beginning. The video of Reed's meltdown at the gallery goes viral within hours. Someone recorded his entire rant on their phone, and by morning, it's been shared across every social media platform, with captions like, "Local businessman has epic breakdown," and "When keeping it fake goes wrong." I watch it over coffee, studying Reed's face as he realizes his carefully constructed facade is crumbling in real time. There's something almost tragic about it. A man who built his entire identity on lies and borrowed money, finally confronting the truth about himself. My phone rings as I'm finishing the video for the 3rd time. It's David Chen, and he sounds exhausted. "I've been fielding calls since 6 a.m., he says without preamble. "Reporters, clients, creditors, lawyers. Everyone wants to know if what they saw last night represents the true financial state of the company. What are you telling them? The truth. That Reed has been moving money around without my knowledge, that I've frozen all accounts pending a full audit, and that I'm doing everything I can to protect our employees and complete our existing contracts." And Reed? Reed is finished. Even if we could somehow sort out the financial mess, no one in this city will ever trust him again. His reputation is completely destroyed. I feel a stab of satisfaction at that news, followed immediately by something that might be guilt. Reed brought this on himself through years of lies and theft and manipulation, but watching someone's life completely collapse is harder than I expected it to be. What about the business? I'm buying out his share. Already talked to my lawyer about the process. It'll take some time to untangle everything, but the company can survive if Reed is completely removed from it. After David hangs up, I sit in my apartment thinking about consequences and collateral damage. Reed's destruction was always the goal, but I'm starting to realize that revenge is messier than I anticipated. David's employees didn't deserve to have their jobs threatened. The clients who trusted Reed didn't deserve to lose their deposits. Even Reed's creditors, unsavory as some of them might be, didn't deserve to be caught up in this financial implosion. But then I remember the wedding photos, Reed's smug smile as he celebrated stealing another man's wife. I remember Vera's cruel words during our divorce, her certainty that she was trading up to a better life. I remember the years of feeling inadequate, of being made to feel like my love and loyalty weren't enough. Some consequences are worth the collateral damage. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. We need to meet, today. It's important. V. Vera wants to talk, and despite everything that's happened, I find myself curious about what she has to say. The woman who slapped Reed in front of Prague's social elite isn't the same woman who left me for a more exciting life. Something has changed in her, and I want to understand what. I suggest a small cafe near the river, neutral territory where we can talk without being interrupted. She agrees immediately, which tells me she's more desperate than she wants to admit. I arrive first and choose a table in the corner where we'll have privacy. The cafe is nearly empty. It's the kind of place locals use for quiet conversations, not the trendy spots where Vera used to prefer to be seen. She walks in 20 minutes later, and I barely recognize her. Gone is the polished, perfectly put-together woman who attended gallery openings and charity galas. This Vera looks tired, worn down, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her clothes more practical than fashionable. "Thank you for meeting me," she says, sliding into the chair across from me. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure I would either." We sit in silence for a moment, studying each other across the small table. She looks older than I remember, but also somehow more real, like the stress of the past few days has stripped away layers of pretense I didn't even realize were there. "I left him," she says finally. "This morning. Packed my things and moved out. Where are you staying?" "Hotel for now. I'm flying back to the States tomorrow. My sister said I can stay with her until I figure out what comes next." I nod, unsure how to respond. Part of me is glad she's escaping Reed's sinking ship, but another part wonders if this is just another calculated move, another attempt to land on her feet while someone else takes the fall. "I know you were behind what happened at the gallery," she continues. "The projection, the financial documents, all of it. I know you've been working to destroy Reed from the moment you found out about our marriage. Are you here to ask me to stop? Because it's a little late for that." "No." Her voice is quiet but steady. "I'm here to apologize." That stops me cold. In all our years together, through all our arguments and reconciliations, I can count on one hand the number of times Vera has genuinely apologized for anything. For what? For everything. For the way I ended our marriage. For the things I said about you during the divorce. For making you feel like you weren't good enough when the truth was that I wasn't good enough for you. She reaches into her purse and pulls out an envelope, sliding it across the table toward me. "What's this?" "A check. For the money I took from our joint accounts when I left. I know it doesn't make up for everything else, but it's a start." I open the envelope and stare at the check. It's for exactly the amount she withdrew from our savings account during the divorce. Money I assumed was gone forever. "Where did you get this?" "I sold my engagement ring, the one Reed gave me." Her laugh is bitter. "Turns out it wasn't worth nearly as much as he claimed, but it was enough to cover what I owed you." I study her face, looking for signs of manipulation or calculation, but all I see is exhaustion and what might be genuine remorse. Why now, Vera? Why are you doing this now? Because I finally understand what I threw away when I left you. Because I spent 2 years chasing something that was never real, hurting people who didn't deserve it, and I can't live with that anymore. She pauses, gathering her thoughts. Reed was never the man I thought he was. But you know what's worse? I wasn't the woman I thought I was either. I became someone I don't recognize, someone who could justify destroying a marriage for the promise of a more exciting life. And now? Now I have to figure out who I actually am underneath all the ambition and dissatisfaction and need to be someone special. I have to learn how to be content with ordinary happiness instead of always reaching for something more. We sit in silence while I process what she's telling me. This isn't the Vera I married, but it's also not the Vera who left me. This is someone new, someone who's been forced to confront the consequences of her choices and didn't like what she found. I don't forgive you, I say finally. Not yet, maybe not ever. But I'm glad you're getting out before Reed drags you down with him. He tried to blame me for everything, you know. Last night after we got home, he said it was my fault that people were suspicious of him, that my ex-husband was psychotic and vindictive, and I should have handled the situation better. And what did you say? I said that my ex-husband was a lot of things, but psychotic wasn't one of them. That if Reed was being destroyed, it was because he'd given you the ammunition to do it. My phone buzzes with a message from Jade. Reed's on the move. Packing boxes. Looks like he's planning to leave town. Should we let him go or finish this? I show the message to Vera, who reads it with a grim expression. He's running, she says. Just like he always does when things get difficult. What do you mean? This isn't the first time Reed's business has had problems. He left Denver under similar circumstances. Creditors closing in, reputation in ruins, partners feeling betrayed. His father bailed him out that time, gave him a fresh start here in Prague. And now? Now his father is gone, and there's no one left to clean up his mess. I think about this new information. Reed isn't just a gambling addict and a thief. He's a serial offender, someone who's been running the same con in multiple cities. Vera wasn't his first victim, and if he escapes to start over somewhere else, she won't be his last. Where would he go? He's been talking about opportunities in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, places where his reputation hasn't caught up with him yet, and Western businessmen are still seen as automatically credible. The idea of Reed escaping to prey on new victims in a new country fills me with rage. Justice isn't just about punishing him for what he did to me and Vera and Jade. It's about preventing him from doing it to others. I text Jade back. Don't let him leave. We finish this today. Vera reads the message over my shoulder. What are you planning? I'm planning to make sure Reed faces real consequences for once in his life. Not just embarrassment or financial problems, but actual accountability. And if I asked you to let him go, to let him run away and become someone else's problem? I consider the question seriously. A few days ago, I might have been satisfied with Reed's public humiliation and financial ruin. But knowing that he's done this before, that he'll do it again if given the chance, changes everything. I'd say that you don't get to ask me for favors anymore. You made your choice when you left me for him. Now I get to make mine. She nods slowly. I understand. Just try not to become someone you can't live with. Revenge has a way of changing people and not always for the better. After Vera leaves, I sit in the cafe thinking about her warning. She's right that revenge changes people. I can feel it happening to me, the way anger and satisfaction have become my primary emotions, the way I've started to enjoy other people's pain as long as it serves my purposes. But some changes are necessary. The man Vera married was too trusting, too willing to believe the best about people, too passive in the face of injustice. That man let himself be walked on and discarded without fighting back. This man fights back. I meet Jade at the warehouse district, where we had our first real conversation about Reed's gambling debts. She's been monitoring his activities through the surveillance cameras she somehow gained access to, and she has a complete picture of his movements over the past 24 hours. He's definitely planning to run, she reports. Packed 3 suitcases, closed his remaining bank accounts, even tried to sell his car but couldn't find a buyer willing to pay cash on short notice. Any idea when he's leaving? Tonight. He booked a flight to Bangkok under an assumed name, James Brennan. Apparently, he's had that identity prepared for a while, complete with passport and credit cards. He really has done this before. Multiple times, I'd guess. Reed's not just a gambling addict. He's a professional con man who's gotten very good at disappearing when things get complicated. We spend an hour planning our final move. It has to be public, undeniable, and permanent. Reed needs to face consequences that will follow him wherever he goes, that will make it impossible for him to reinvent himself in a new city with new victims. The plan we develop is elegant in its simplicity. Reed's flight doesn't leave until midnight, which gives him time for one final performance, a farewell appearance at his favorite bar, where he'll undoubtedly spin some story about temporary setbacks and exciting new opportunities abroad. Jade has already confirmed that he made a reservation for 8 p.m. at the rooftop bar of the Hotel Augustine, a trendy spot where Prague's expat business community gathers to network and gossip. It's exactly the kind of place Reed would choose for his final act, surrounded by people who might still believe his lies. What about evidence? I ask. Jade smiles and pats the briefcase beside her. I've been busy. Financial records, loan documents, recorded phone calls with his creditors, even some security footage of him meeting with his bookie. Everything we need to paint a complete picture of his criminal activities. And the authorities? Already contacted. There's a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit who's very interested in Reed's business practices. He'll be at the bar tonight, along with a few of his colleagues. I feel a moment of doubt. What we're planning goes beyond public humiliation or social consequences. We're talking about criminal charges, possible prison time, the complete destruction of Reed's ability to reinvent himself anywhere. But then I think about Vera's revelation that Reed has done this before, that there are other victims in other cities who never got justice. I think about the employees whose jobs were threatened by his theft, the creditors he's been stringing along, the women he's manipulated and discarded. Some people deserve complete destruction. At 7:30, I'm positioned at a table near the bar's entrance, dressed casually and nursing a beer while I watch the other patrons. The crowd is exactly what I expected. Expat professionals, local business owners, tourists with money to spend on overpriced cocktails with views of the city. Jade is somewhere in the building, probably in the service areas where she can access the sound system and security cameras. The police officers are harder to spot, but I trust that they're in position. Reed arrives at exactly 8 o'clock, making his usual dramatic entrance. He's dressed in an expensive suit that probably represents his last liquid asset, and he's working the crowd with the desperate intensity of a man who knows this is his final performance. I watch him move through the room, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries, telling anyone who will listen about the exciting opportunities waiting for him in Southeast Asia. Some people seem genuinely interested, others are politely skeptical, but no one appears to suspect that they're talking to a man who's about to be arrested. At 8:30, Reed takes the microphone from the bar's small stage area, ostensibly to make a toast, but really to address the rumors that have been circulating about his business. Ladies and gentlemen, he begins, his voice carrying easily through the space. I want to thank you all for your friendship and support during these challenging times. This is the moment we've been waiting for. As Reed continues his speech, Jade begins broadcasting the evidence through the bar's sound system. Financial documents appear on the screens normally used to display drink specials. Recorded phone calls play through the speakers. Reed's voice clearly identifiable as he lies to creditors and threatens people who ask uncomfortable questions about his business practices. The crowd's attention shifts from Reed to the screens around the room, confusion giving way to understanding as they process what they're seeing and hearing. These are business people who understand financial documents, who can recognize the difference between legitimate business practices and outright fraud. Reed realizes what's happening and tries to regain control of the situation, but it's too late. The evidence is overwhelming, undeniable, and completely damning. His protests of innocence sound hollow against the backdrop of his own recorded voice, admitting to theft and fraud. The police officers move in smoothly, professionally, showing their badges and placing Reed under arrest while he's still trying to explain away the evidence being broadcast around him. The crowd watches in fascination as handcuffs are applied and rights are read, the final scene in a drama that's been building for days. As Reed is led away, he catches sight of me sitting at my table near the entrance. Our eyes meet for a moment, and I see recognition there, along with rage and something that might be respect. "This isn't over," he says as he passes my table. "Yes, it is," I reply calmly. "It's completely over." And it is. Reed's arrest will make the morning papers, along with details about his financial crimes and history of similar behavior in other cities. His fake identity won't help him now. The authorities know exactly who he is and what he's done. There will be no escape to Southeast Asia, no fresh start with new victims. Justice, finally, has been served. I finish my beer and walk out into the Prague night, leaving behind the chaos and excitement of Reed's final downfall. My phone is buzzing with messages. David wanting to know if I saw the news, Marcus asking if I'm satisfied with the outcome, even a few reporters who somehow got my number and want to comment about my role in the investigation. But the message that matters most is from Jade. It's finished. He's finished. Well done, partner. I look up at the stars barely visible through the city's light pollution and realize that I feel something I haven't experienced in months. Peace. Not satisfaction, not vindication, but actual peace. Reed got what he deserved. Vera is starting over with a clearer understanding of who she is and what she wants. David's business will survive and thrive without its corrupt partner. Justice has been served, and the people Reed hurt have been vindicated. The underdog's reckoning is complete. I walk home through the quiet streets of old Prague, past the market that never sleeps, and up to my apartment 3 floors above the noise and chaos of daily life. Tomorrow, I'll start thinking about my own future, about what comes next for a man who's spent months focused on revenge and justice. But tonight, I'm content to sit by my window and watch the city sleep, knowing that sometimes the good guys really do win in the end, even when they have to become the bad guys to do it.